I swear one of these days I'm gonna get busted dancing to the intro song, and I can't even hear it during the intro. I just know it really, really well, so I can envision it in my head when I hit the end of it, and I'm always like, doot doot. So anyway, we are back with another episode of Tales from the Tavern. I have a great group of guests with me here, and we're going to go around and do introductions in just a minute. And, hello, Scry Society, I see you in chat. Yeah, we've got all kinds of good stuff to share, and so I'm gonna just let these guys take it away and do some introductions, and then I'll go over all of the stuff I need to talk about. So we're actually gonna start with Adam, and then we'll work our way around. So Adam, please tell us a little about yourself.
I wasn't expecting to go first, despite having the letter A in my name.
Surprise!
I'm Adam. I'm on Twitter at 34th Gingerbread, and I'm a general kind of all-purpose writer. I do a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. I am the author behind superhuman horror comic Folklore, and when I'm not working on that, and I'm not working on that like eternal writer book that everyone chases forever until they die, I'm working on D&D stuff. I've got a unique world living campaign called Teldrimere that I'm trying to get up and running at a local game store that's actually coming very, very soon. I've done one-shots for Rolled and Told, and most recently Splinterverse. I kind of do a little bit of everything, and I absolutely love D&D.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you on. I know you and I have interacted on Twitter for quite a while, so it's always nice to be able to put a face with a Twitter handle. So thank you so much for joining. Brianna, tell us a little about you.
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Brianna Jeans, because Brianna Jean was taken. Oh, had to go plural. Now I can't stop thinking Brianna Pants every time I read it. You're welcome. Now you're going to have to suffer with me on that. I am the DM and producer of Aboard the Opal Star, a sci-fi podcast. Lots of space opera, lots of inspiration from Star Trek, Star Wars, and Mass Effect, of course. I play in and produce another podcast. It's Disciples of the Eight. It's more of an epic fantasy, and I recently released a third show, a Monster of the Week show called Tempest Multi. I refer to it as my Southern Gothic reality twisting monster of the week. That's a mouthful. And I am a player on The Ballad of the Seven Knights Gradient Descent, as well as being part of an audio drama called The Graveyard Tapes. It's fantastic. You should go listen to it. And that's all that I'm doing now that people can currently access. There are other things eventually. I do too many things, it's fine.
Well, thank you for taking some time and coming to hang out. Welcome in, Raiders, coming in from the Bards and Brews stream. Glad to have you here. Nice to see you all. Some familiar faces I see in chat now. So welcome in. We're just getting started with some introductions. So pull up a chair, grab a drink, and stick around. Ask some questions of our group, and we will. I will get to how all that works in just a minute. Kim, tell us a little about you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Kim. You can find me on Twitter at _Kim Hanley. I had to add an underscore because someone was squatting on my name, very similarly to Brianna. And right now, there's not a whole lot of places you can find me. I had been DMing a couple of active campaigns through Roll Society, ROLE Roll Society here on Twitch, but I had to put them on hiatus because my day job is far more demanding than I'd like it to be. But with a little bit of spare time that I have been able to scrape together, I've been writing and publishing content. There's some links that will be up over there in chat. I've spent the last 2 years working on this dungeon project that I'm playtesting right now that I think is going to be really, really something special when I finally get it out. I just have to get out of playtesting first. So I'm really excited to share that with everybody once it's ready to go. So.
Awesome. Very exciting. I'm anxious to see more about that. So, well, thank you for coming on, and Krista, let's talk to you for a little bit.
Sure. My name's Krista. I started a publishing company called Cattail Press. tail like fairy tale, not tail like cattail. And over the pandemic, I started writing Grim-themed RPGs using the D&D 5e open gaming license. So I'm story by story, I'm creating a universe called Kingdom of Grimsby, and it'll probably expand to other kingdoms in future stories. I'm pretty new to the RPG world, so thanks for having me on. This is my first stream, so I'm really nervous and pretty excited. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Cattail Press.
Awesome. You would not you might be surprised, but this is not the first time I've had somebody on with their first stream ever. It actually just happened last week too. So, yeah, this is like a nice like baby step into streaming. So, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm looking forward to getting to chat a little bit. And longtime friend of mine, Kai Ellen, happy to have you back.
Hey, hi everybody, glad to be here. I am Kyellen. You can follow me on Twitter at Kyellen. I am I am too many things. But most recently, I am making lots and lots of tabletop RPG music, which you actually heard if you were here in the lobby, and you may hear more of as the night goes on. I have a Patreon for said music at patreon.com/Kyellen. And breaking news this evening, I am now a cast member in a brand new Orbital Blues live play podcast called Telluride with some of the crew from the amazing and incredible Lawful Great Adventures, which is my favorite live play podcast of all time. So I am super psyched to be part of this project, and I hope that you will all check it out on Thursday when it launches.
Yeah, I think I have an alarm set for it, actually, so, because, for anybody who's ever talked to me on Twitter, I'm always like, oh my god, you should check out Lawful Great Adventures! Really, really, a lot of fun, great podcast, great crew over there, and I'm excited to say that the entire cast of the Telluride podcast will be coming back in December, so that will be a lot of fun. If you've ever had questions about podcasting, cool. Actual plays, like that would be a great opportunity to stop by and talk about some of that as well. So, for those of you... go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot I actually also have a brand new album coming out on Tuesdays, so there's a lot of things going on in life right now.
Yeah, that's exciting. You
can look forward to that too.
I know. I am part of Kai Ellen's Patreon, and I am always excited that I get to get first peek at some of the stuff that he writes, some of the music that he comes up with, and it's always really, really great. So, check it out if you haven't listened to any of his stuff before. It's definitely worth the listen. All right, so for those of you that are coming here for the first time ever, if you were part of the raid coming in or this is your first time visiting the channel, I am Gamer Mom Luna. This is Tales from the Tavern, and the way that this stream works is you guys ask all of the questions. It comes all from chat. So if you have a question for anybody or everybody here, feel free to drop that in the chat, and I have a moderator who will make sure that we get to see it. We also have, for people who have been saving up their channel points, we have the Ask My Question Next with the channel points. For 1,000 channel points, it will bump your question up to the top of the queue. I keep doing little hand signals down here below my camera and nobody can see them. It'll bump your question up to the top of the queue so you don't have to wait for us to get around to answering it. But basically, all TTRPG stuff pretty much is fair game. So feel free to drop those questions in chat. We want your questions. We live for your questions, and hopefully we will get some good conversation going. So I'm gonna throw out a big heavy question to get the ball rolling. Because we are now in the season of giving thanks and Thanksgiving, what are you grateful for in the TTRPG sphere? as we will put it.
That's a tough question.
It is a tough question.
There's a lot of things the past couple of years that especially since the pandemic pushed us all online, I think I've discovered, I've made a bunch of new friends. I've spent a lot of time playing games. I'm very happy to be here and to have met you, Luna, and all of you wonderful people that I interact with on Twitter all the time. I have to say I'm super grateful for Ben and Rabbit from Lawful Great for doing this new thing and inviting me along, and I gotta shout out my my Sunday night group too, because we've been playing almost every Sunday for, it's gotta be like 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
No, it's longer than that, because my daughter's about to
Impressive.
turn 3, and we started the second campaign right after she was born. So it's got to be closer to 5 years, and those guys are awesome.
Yeah, I have to be thankful for my group as well, who's been probably playing this solidly for 4 years. I think just the existence of this game, like being able to play it online through the pandemic, is what got me through most of the pandemic. It's been a rough year and a half, and so I'm just grateful that like my group stayed together and we kept playing, and we have some awesome DMs in our group that we rotate through.
I feel the same. I've been in one campaign for probably going on 4 years now with people I was friends with at college, and it's been great. But also just with the community as a whole, I've always wanted to tell stories for a living, more or less, but I never thought I would be able to. But in the span of less than 2 years, I've launched 3 different actual play podcasts. Yeah,
Nice.
one that I started by myself. Well, I say by myself. Well, the one that I started doing all of the production work myself with some friends from college. I was aboard the Opal Star, and then we started recording another game that I was in. And then Doug approached me about the idea for the collaboration that became Tempest Multi. Which, after the first season, is going to go into my own canon universe, because I was having far, far too much fun with the idea he gave me. It's a great space to play in and to meet and work with some really amazing people. And I think it's the only reason I'm still sane right now.
Yeah, that's
Because
fair.
I worked in retail for most of the pandemic. Not recommend that.
Echo the sentiment a little bit about being grateful for fellow players and DMs. I have 3 of the players from one of the campaigns that had to get put on hiatus. They have been so phenomenal. Every time I come up with something, they jump at the chance to participate in it. They're just like, Tim, if you're running something, we want in immediately. And it's been such a massive help. I was like, hey, with work being crazy, I can't do a full weekly campaign. I've got a couple of weeks I can do a thing. They immediately hands straight up in the air. I was like, hey, I'm playtesting this puzzle dungeon. It's really hard. Hands straight up in the air. And they've just been such a phenomenal help to me as I try to work through working and doing this and everything else that I've got going on. So they've been amazing. And then just having Twitter, like finding kind of the RPG community there, and some of the people that I've had a chance to interact with and just bounce ideas around. People throw out ideas for items and spells, and there's a couple of bots that were made by the same person, spell generator, loot generator, and I just have so much fun when they pop up in my feed, and it's like, oh, that kicks off an idea, and I just retweet it real quick with a half cobbled together description of what I might have been inspired, and it's so great having that little 10 minutes of creativity every once in a while pop up in the feed and just throw something out there for people to chew on and run with. So
I'm super lucky, period. Like I know it. My groups are amazing. I've got 2 groups. One's playtesting world that I'm developing for a store, and the other is my local friend group that also just kind of runs with whatever I want to. And I'm super lucky because both of them are just constantly like they're in concert, like supporting me at all points in time. If there's something I need to playtest for one world, if the groups need to switch dates, like they don't really interact with each other, but they work around my schedule, which is incredible. Like organizing D&D period is very difficult let alone having like multiple people be willing to work around their lives for you. I have a store that's working with me, which is like crazy. I never thought that I would have a chance to like get to do something on a commercial level and build something in a community that's like physical. Because with the pandemic, all of our attention's online, which is where I'm trying to put more of my heart into, is to give back more to the digital space. But the local community still matters a lot to me as well, and just being able to have like a physical space to play D&D in and to have these amazing experiences, that's what got me into D&D originally, is being able to go into a nerd store and see like a crazy dragon on the wall and, you know, touch books for a million years and not have to worry that I have to wash my hands immediately afterwards. So being able
Those
to
were the days.
Yeah, I barely remember them. But yeah, it's been so cool. Like at every corner, I feel like I've had a chance to be like, I want to do this, I want to try this, and there's usually someone who's like, yeah, let's try it, let's do that.
Yeah, my friends have been really good about playtesting the 2 stories I've published already. They were very patient and had a lot of good feedback. So having them around for that was also useful as well as great.
Yeah, with the board the Opal Star, it's me, Casey, and Alexis have been talking about doing something kind of like that with a different system. But then I eventually was like, I have an idea. Can I just kind of take this over? And then I asked my friend Victor, "Hey, I'm doing a thing. It's going to be recorded. Do you want to join?" And they're like, "Sure." And like over a year later, they're still with me. Well, Victor had to step away because spoons, but they're still with me. His spot's open at the table. Whenever he finds where his spoons went.
I would have to say, I think like a lot of us have already said, but you know, there's sort of like the pre-pandemic and then the post-pandemic, you know, interactions with the TTRPG community. And pre-pandemic, I was just starting to get into streaming and that sort of thing, and so I was already like making those steps into a lot of the online interactions that people were just getting into when COVID hit. But it really shifted the way, you know, my local group, we weren't able to meet in person anymore. We had, you know, some high risk health people in our group that, you know, and just made it really tricky. And I think all of the friends that I've met sort of through doing this it's been really great to kind of still have those connections with people, and be able to have like a regular night where I could sit down and play D&D, or actually in my case it was Pathfinder 1st edition, but still, you know, playing a game, having fun, laughing, and even if it wasn't with my local group, it was still something regular that I could count on doing every week, you know, and having that one piece of normalcy in my life during that time frame. And then just the people that I've met through doing this stream and other streams and being on Twitter, I've found the wider TTRPG community to be exceptionally friendly and open and helpful. And, you know, I know that's not the case for everybody, but that's been my experience, and so I like to try to pass that forward when I can. So yes, and Bat Duck said, and Luna learned about anime, which is also true. I was a late comer to the anime fields, but I've got some good ones under my belt now. So
TTRPG definitely blew up with the pandemic. Like I think for a lot of people it became like, whereas once it was like something you had to be really dedicated to do, then for a lot of people it became like the only option to investigate, maybe, for like being able to connect with friends and do something like crazy and weird, but also like cheap and accessible.
Yeah, it is nice. You can just have a, you know, all you need to do is get on a computer. You don't have to have anything fancy to do it online, and it's so nice. And it's so nice to have, I mean, the pandemic was horrible. Having the alternate universe to go play in and hang out with your friends in was really nice.
Then you get to become friends with your friends again, just as different people this time.
Yeah.
True. over and over again.
Well, so for me too, it's also been interesting because during the pandemic was when I found I had the biggest like crossover between my local group and my online groups, if you will. Like they, you know, I have my own Discord server, for example, and so they all interact with each other, and I know which ones are my local friends and which ones aren't. But for me, it's just really neat sort of seeing all that, which is kind of like, oh, my world's all coming together, and so it's fun.
It's fun when worlds collide a little bit.
You don't have to keep track of where you know who from. You're just like, oh, everyone's friends.
Yeah. Right. I don't see chat is being very quiet tonight, so I'm going to dig back into we had a question last week actually that we weren't able to have time to answer, so I'm going to throw that one out to everybody. And that was a question that came in from Draconics, and Draconics wanted to know, what is a world that you prefer, such as Eberron, Forgotten Realms, etc., etc.? Is there one that you prefer over another, or anything like that? So
I've only ever really played in homebrew worlds is the thing.
Yeah, I've only dabbled in like the Sword Coast plus Ravenloft, because one of the campaigns we did in my Saturday group is Curse of Strahd. I do have to say I like horror more than fantasy, so I tend to lean towards like the Curse of Strahd campaign that my friend ran for us, like, sealed the deal. It was over after that, because like I was like, oh, you can do crazy horror things with D&D. This is amazing.
Hell yeah!
And so I love the Ravenloft world just because it's dark and creepy. And I'm prepping like a current campaign that takes place in the Underdark. I'm prepping like Out of the Abyss, but I'm actually going to interweave a bunch of the Ravenloft lore into it. So I'm actually pretty excited about running that, you know, in like a year when it happens.
If you like cosmic horror, check out Espergenesis. It's by Alligator Alley Entertainment, same core mechanics as D&D, but it's set in space.
Oh, cool.
And they're just these things floating in space called crucibles, and that's basically where magic comes from. And there was one race where they deciphered the writing on it and learned how to basically make another sentient race. And just, who left that behind, and why, and what happened to them?
Nice. I wrote that down. I will check that out for sure.
Yeah, I've definitely, over the past, past years, have realized I enjoy cosmic horror.
Nice.
I hope my players aren't watching this. I don't want them to be afraid. Yet.
They've all learned something new tonight.
Pretty sure they're not.
Huge horror fan. Like, horror, it doesn't matter what world I'm running, like, horror eventually comes into it. Like, it's my favorite genre. Super biased.
Yeah, I definitely grew up with like Stephen King and all those weird horror people instead of like sci-fi. I'm sad I missed the sci-fi thing as a kid, but like I've caught up a little bit. But I definitely love the horror genre too.
Have any of you had a chance to play Dread?
No.
Good things.
Heard
Haven't
of
had a
it.
chance to play.
Okay. Do you know what it is? I haven't played it myself yet, but I super want to.
Is that the that's the
No,
one
I'm
with the
writing
candles, right?
notes.
This is the one with Jenga.
Oh,
Oh,
Jenga.
yeah!
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that just sounds that sounds even more stressful than just the name. Yeah, Jenga, I'm like,
It's a one-shot system where instead of rolling dice, anytime you do an action in-game as a player, you have to pull a block successfully from the Jenga tower, and the second you fail, you die.
Oh god.
No
That
pressure
is
there.
very unforgiving.
Yeah, it's super, but it's designed to be like just a one night sort of thing. I want to play it super bad. Like the second I can get people collectively back into a room again, I'll have to buy a Jenga set, I guess.
Hold on while I go buy a Jenga set.
Amazon.
Yeah,
it.
that sounds stressful, but awesome at the same time.
I recently finally got a chance to play Call of Cthulhu because one of my players offered to run a Halloween one-shot for us, so Oh man, it was good. It was good, and I was obsessing over that for a while.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm
Both the story and getting the sound design just right.
weirdly, I'm a huge horror fan, but I haven't played any horror like RPGs. It just hasn't hooked me for whatever. Like I just haven't really felt that urge to jump into it for this, which is I don't know. But
I think it depends on what kind of story you want to tell. Like I'm running my friend local game is set in Wildmount, which I guess back to the question, I like the Wildmount setting. I mostly run homebrew, and my past 2 years have just been homebrew. But I do like the Critical Role Wildmount. I think he designed cities really well in that book, and they're as a DM who has like a million things on the go, it's kind of nice to just have a world setting that isn't like Forgotten Realms that has 10,000 years of history I have to remember.
Mm.
The nice thing though is you can Google all that like while you're running. You're like, oh, what
Yeah.
do we need to know about this world, please? While I consult, my Google Chrome window.
Yeah, can and do.
Yeah, exactly.
But with horror, like depending on what you want to get out of the horror system, it will kind of change. Like D&D, like horror mechanics are like very narrative based. But if you ever just read about like other game systems, like I picked up, haven't played it yet, but I picked up the Aliens system because it has a pretty neat like D6 setup where you have like a number of D6s, I think equal to how good you are at something. And then depending on how challenging the thing is, you'll get D6s that come in to potentially aid you. But also if you roll like ones on them, they hurt you. So like if you have like 4 D6s as your skill and you roll 4 D6s and you get 4 6s, you'll do amazing. But if you get 4 1s, you might still complete it, but something bad will happen as a result. So getting extra dice in your pool can like possibly have it so that you do something incredible, but like also all of the oxygen vents from the room or something. Like something bad will go along with your success.
Cool.
Duct tape broke.
yeah.
I
You gotta
do
run your street tear.
I do very much enjoy the success at a cost. Something because like I've been going back and editing old session recordings, and something I've not been great at is leaving room for failure. Like, leaving room for them to mess up or maybe not get it right, and to learn and grow from the consequences.
Yeah, I think I haven't run that many games as a DM, so I think the want to be really nice, I need to just squash that, I think. Especially if I'm going to run one that's like in the Underdark, it should be pretty terrifying. So I'm going to have to like stop being nice.
It's one of those, I mean, it's the result, it's not going to be the end of the world, at least not this early in the campaign, but there's going to be consequences. This makes things more interesting.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like failure can be fun, and it can also just like create some fun outcomes, even if weird, like unexpected things happen.
I'm just used to the unexpected. Most of my session notes are like 4 bullet points, and I'm just gonna like just go with whatever they throw at me.
Make sure
Really
that when
good
you're,
at assembling chaos crews.
if you're going to run horror D&D especially, it's real important to make sure that you don't let them bully you into long resting wherever they want to. That it makes a huge difference if you kind of put your foot down on that a little bit.
Or it's, you get into that whole, you could take a long rest here, but this really horrible thing is going to happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, when we ran... Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. My friend ran the D&D campaign where you go to hell. Everett?
Sent into Avernus.
That one. Yeah, my friend ran that one, and he made it so, like, long rests weren't full long rests unless you were, like, in a place that was, like, you had an ally. So, like, if you were out in the middle of nowhere, your long rest wouldn't be a full one. It would just, like, give you your spells back, and it would give you it would give you like half your hit dice. So like, and it wouldn't necessarily, I think, give all your health back either. So he like made long and short rests a little more, not as nerfy as like D&D 5e is. So because you're in the middle of hell and it should be terrible and hard. So I'm toying with some ideas of like carrying that into the Underdark campaign, because the Underdark is a pretty terrible place. No offense to the Underdark races, but it's supposed to be a hard to survive campaign and environment.
I'm all about that. That's how I like to play D&D. So,
especially with this 5th edition, I like 5th edition a lot, but there's a lot that can be improved in it, and it can be a little bit black and white for the DM in terms of like pass fail. But hidden timers, it's totally cool for your players to like deliberate what to do, but at the same time, like, you remind them that stuff is happening in the world around them. Because I think a lot of players think that the second they start talking, the pause menu is on. But if you tell them while they're talking, like, you hear a rumble ahead, or like you hear a door creak, like they'll realize like, oh, we're still in the game world. Like, things are happening around us and moving.
Yeah, I actually had that happen in one of my campaigns. I generally treat conversation as happening essentially in real time, because that if you're talking, the time that you spend talking would take the same amount of time it does. Like, it's real time. And they just started scheming and going in circles on their scheme, and eventually they're like, okay, we got it. And they went downstairs, and the person that they were going to try to engage with had left and gone home. And then the restaurant that they were going to go to had closed for the night. So they went back the next morning, and it's a dinner restaurant. So they weren't open for breakfast, and they weren't open for lunch. So they come back at dinner. They completely blew the entire scenario for like 2 days of in-game, because they just spent so long talking amongst themselves that they completely missed the plot hook. It just completely sailed right by them. It was just like, yeah, you guys sat up there debating this for hours, and it was just like, the guy got up and went home. Like, what did you expect him to do?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there was definitely one time where the players were talking in circles about something. It was for the little basic witches one shot that I ran. So like, I was gonna introduce to like an outside character, but I was gonna introduce them later when they got to a certain car garage. And so it was just like, you see this shadowy figure walking towards you in the parking garage, just frantically messaging the person, "This is you." Like, I'll just do this introduction up early, it'll be really funny, and it was.
Nice.
One of them
I think it's
turned
important to
invisible
have...
and got stuck.
I do think the time clocks are important. We had one in Curse of Strahd, so it definitely made us like not take, we'll just take another short rest here. We'll just, we'll spend the night here in our little dome. Like, you can't do that anymore. And I think it's important, because otherwise it's too easy.
Yeah, I've been working on maintaining a sense of time in my games, like especially day over day travel and trying to map out things that are going to happen unless they're directly interrupted by the people with agency, meaning players. If they don't do anything about this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, and it's going to happen on this day. So if they don't get there by that day, the thing has happened already. And that's been an interesting experiment.
Yeah, there's also, because my game world is set in 2 different parts of space. There's the Federation, which is kind of like North Korea, and then there's the Alliance, which is or like the Star Trek Federation almost. Nice. So my players are currently over at Alliance space, but there are things going on in the Federation that are going to have implications for them. Including one of them when they decided that their dad was basically the director of the FBI. And that he just disappeared along with the entirety of the FBI, and suddenly it's all new people, and like, you do realize the shady people in that government are going to be very suspicious, and things are going to escalate now because suddenly the entire branch of the government is different.
Oh dear.
Luna, what was the question?
I do.
You've gotten very
That's a
off
really good
topic.
I'm sorry, I've completely lost the thread of the question.
The question was what your favorite game setting is, so like Eberron or something along those lines.
Right. Okay, that's what it was. Okay.
Wow,
Sorry.
how did we get here?
I
That's
don't
what
know.
happens on this show. That's how it goes.
And it just kind of sat back and watched.
Dragonlance
awesome.
was my first love, but Eberron's pretty cool.
Games
Okay.
that I've
Yeah, I'm
played
excited
in.
to try Eberron.
Oh yeah, games that I've played in. So I actually have probably played more Pathfinder First Edition. And I shouldn't say probably. I have played more Pathfinder First Edition in the last 2 years than I have played D&D. So I'm gonna go with, instead of a D&D setting, I'm gonna go with the setting in the Pathfinder Rise of the Runelords campaign. I didn't get to finish that campaign, but I am fascinated by it, and I really want to play it so I know how it ends.
Yeah, Varistia in Galarian is a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool setup.
Yeah.
We played a lot in Galarian. Our first Pathfinder game was not Rise of the Runelords, but it was Rise of the Runelords adjacent.
Adjacent, yeah. I know, it was funny because the second campaign that I played was Curse of the Crimson Throne. And I remember, like, it was the first time I'd ever played games where the same towns came up in both. Like, I just never had that happen because everything I'd played prior to that was homebrew. And so it was like, oh my god, I'm looking at a map of this town, and hey, there's Sandpoint, and hey, there's this other major city that we went to, and I was like,
There's Magnamar, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was fun. If I'm listening to a game, though, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna shout out the Lawful Great Adventures crew, because the world that Ben has built over there, so good, so good.
So good.
And like deep and lore rich, and I could listen to him talk about that for hours.
Yep.
I literally have a whole episode of Tales from the Tavern called Let's All Love Ben because we were all talking about him. So
I really need to get back to listening to that because I started listening and I binged it for a while and then I got distracted by something.
It's all good.
That happens a lot. There's a lot of shows out there.
yeah,
It's
there
fun
are.
trying to keep
There
track of them all.
absolutely are. All right, so
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming to find one to watch now. 'Cause you're
Yes.
like, I would like to try a new one, and then it's like, there's so many.
yeah,
There are
my
a million options.
my podcast backlog is massive. I mean, we're talking probably hundreds of hours.
Easily.
All right, let's see. Bunk Bunker asked a question. So there was a conversation kind of happening off to the side in chat about anime, since I had mentioned anime. And Bunk Bunker would like to know, okay, running off the anime connection, what anime main cast would have the most fun playing D&D?
I have to say, I don't dabble in anime enough to be able to answer that. I'll take notes, though.
And all the anime I watch, they just fight each other all the time.
Right?
So, I don't remember. I think the name is like Life of an MMO Addict. I don't remember the exact name of it. It was a short anime friend recommended to me, and it was about these people who basically live in MMO games. So I was like,
It wasn't.
Yeah,
that was
that's
my
fair.
first thought. Is they would love it.
Yeah, the first cast that popped into my mind was the cast of Sword Art Online, because I was like, that's essentially what they do anyway. You know?
It's almost
I think
cheating.
It's MMO Junkie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sword Art Online, they're literally trapped in a MMO.
I don't know about
I-
most fun, but I'd really like the one I'd perhaps most like to watch would be the cast of Death Note, all gathered around a table together.
Jeez.
Don't let them use their own notebooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cheating.
Yeah. Don't don't get them mixed up, right? Like,
Yeah.
which one's my one for the campaign? Oh, jeez. I think the My Hero Aka, My Hero
Yep.
Academia, they could have a lot of fun playing TTRPGs together as like a side classroom hobby. They would definitely have a lot of fun. And then it'd be really funny to see the brother and sister from No Game No Life try to play a TTRPG, because they're the whole premise of the anime and the novel that it's based on is that they're like absolutely ridiculously good at all games, any game, period. But from like a very strategic and win and at all costs kind of a mentality. So putting them into a game that you literally can't win would be very funny to watch, in my opinion. 'Cause
That
they're
sounds
just
like it would be, yeah.
stuck in this like, whoa.
So I'm not on like the cutting edge of anime, but I discovered over this pandemic a manga called Delicious in Dungeon. And I don't know if you ever heard of it, but
I don't know what it is, but I'm in.
Oh my god. All right. So it's about this group of, it's got this very like tabletop rules world where they go into this dungeon and you kill monsters and you get money, and there's like towns get built over dungeons, and eventually like the dungeons kind of like spur their own economy. But the story is about this one party that goes in, and one of the people in there dies to a dragon, and everyone else has to escape, and they want to go back and recover. The brother of the person who died wants to go recover his sister's body so they can resurrect her, but they have no money. So they decide that they're going to go through the dungeon, but to save on cash, they're going to eat everything that they kill. And it's part a dungeon adventure and part a cooking adventure, where they talk about like how they're going to serve and prepare like killer mushrooms, and like can you boil a water elemental and make ice cream? Can you?
I laugh because there was literally a discussion on this show one time about whether or not you could drink a water elemental.
Yes,
Yeah.
the P elemental.
And then it became a P elemental, and all hell broke loose from there.
It was like Patch and Chris that we could blame that on.
Oh, yeah.
I thought Futurama answered that
Delicious.
question. Did they not? That's how water elementals advance in society. They drink each other. That's their assassination attempt.
I love it. Yeah, and chat just said, and here we are back to drinking water elementals. Yes, and if you see it come up in chat, hashtag FTWE is free the water elemental, which is basically code for everybody go to the bathroom.
Oh
Love
dear.
that.
All right, let's see. We'll squeeze in one more question before it's time for break. So, got a question from Cujo2D6. I'm new here, so I apologize if this question gets asked a lot, but do you have a favorite race to play, and why is it orcs?
Cujo. That's one of my
Tieflings.
Sunday night crew with the troll question, by the way.
Tieflings.
I was like, I know this is a troll question, but I'm going with it anyway.
Tiefling's
Fun
good
being
answer.
fire resistant.
That is a
Also,
good answer.
The tale is kind of fun for roleplay with the amount of time my tiefling hero stood slapping our cleric on the ankle with her tail.
I
Super
play-
biased to
Oh.
dwarves.
Yeah,
Oh,
dwarves are
nice.
fun. I play halflings
Dwarves
a
are
lot.
pretty badass. I haven't played the same race twice yet. I'd like to hop around to try them all, but I'm playing a tabaxi right now, and I love cats, so
I'm starting one of those
I'm
soon.
particularly partial.
In a
I
one shot,
I love my tabaxi.
I played a Tabaxi barbarian. She was a storm herald with the sea as her focus, so there's a lot of lightning going on.
Nice.
So she has a mohawk. When she rages, she floofs, and when she's really angry, just goes full on cockatiel.
Nice.
Which is really funny, except for she's going to pulverize you.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing in
Yeah,
a...
I based my
oh, go ahead.
I based my tabaxi on one of my cats who's like super old and he's a sorcerer, and he's got like patch of fur, white fur on his face. So like
Aw.
he's an alchemist that was like had his fur, burned off and grew back white, and I just get to use all my cat's mannerisms in role playing, which is kind of fun because he's a very chill and sweet cat. So
Do you make
glad
him
he's
roll?
getting to play. What?
Just throw a
Do you
d20
make
on the
him roll?
floor and
Yeah.
He has come and bat the dice around the tray, but he mostly sleeps next to me while I play. 'Cause he's like 17 or something now.
That's impressive.
So fun but random side note: the mythos, the Sandy Peterson mythos supplement for D&D 5 contains a mythos cat, which is not a tabaxi, it's not a humanoid cat, but is actually just a cat.
I
Full
love it.
rules for playing a cat.
I
Intelligent.
need this. I need this in my
love
life.
that.
I actually wrote a animal race pack, and it's available at Pay What You Want on Drive-Thru RPG, because I wrote a one-shot where all the PCs were animal characters, so you can play. And then so I just separated out the races and like just threw them on as like pay what you want, you can take them. So like there's a donkey and a hound and a cat and a rooster and an owl and a raven with full 5e stats.
Nice.
And they were fun to write and play. They were fun to watch people play them.
I also had a lot of fun playing a Fire Genasi once.
I have a.
So,
Oh.
Nope.
I was just gonna
I've
say.
had a good time playing with changeling characters.
Oh,
It's just
fun.
having that shape shifting to fall back on for roleplay has been really cool to experiment with and just kind of lean into. But honestly, the deepest and like best characters I've had in any games are the humans that I've made. For whatever reason, those are the ones that the ones that I really sink my teeth into in terms of giving them depth and backstory and really making them people. It tends to just be the humans that I make.
Tried and true. Nothing wrong with that.
The
I have a character coming up in a podcast that's going to be launching soon called Tournament of Doors, and I'm playing a Tabaxi monk, Way of the Open Hand, and I'm so excited to bust that character out. And then in the past, when my daughter is like 13 now, and when she was probably 2, I played a Kender that I based on her. So basically anything that happened during the course of the week happened to my character during that session. And it was a lot of fun because,
amazing.
2-year-olds are hilarious. So,
That's adorable.
they're busy, but it made for great Kender roleplay.
Yeah, my tabaxi is also a monk. It's a pretty powerful combo, so I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, I am very much looking forward to it. I have a post-it note stuck to my monitor with a bunch of okay, regular unarmed strike, 2 attacks, flurry of blows, bonus action,
Fair enough. It's a lot to keep track of.
I was gonna say I rarely play the same thing twice. I try to bounce around, and just try every possible thing. The one time I actually got to play in Eberron, I played a Kalashtar, I think, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
Psychic, ancient psychic souls molded to human-like mortals, so they switch back and forth between being normal people and being insanely ancient, super powerful spirits, and it was fun. Had a good
Connected
time
to
with
the dream realm, the dream realm, I think.
that. Yeah, it was neat to
that's-
play that.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Kim. Dwarves are my favorite, but all of my actual best characters that are the most memorable for me are all humans, which I think is in my group everyone's always playing weird stuff, so I'm I gotta be the normal guy to ground this group of weird, colorful people.
Yeah, I'm currently playing a knowledge cleric human, and she's a lot of fun. And she has this, a sister in the campaign, and they just fight all the time, and it's a really amusing relationship that we have. But yeah, it's the first time I've ever played just a human, and it's great.
Yeah.
Never
it's really...
just played a human, but then again, I only have like 2 long-term campaigns that I've been in and like, a handful of one-shots. Yeah, the characters I played the longest would be Hero, my tiefling, arcane trickster / alchemist. I adore her. She's very sassy. And then my drow paladin, who is also sassy, but in the attempt of trying to get people more pissed off at her, she'll take more hits than the rest of the party. Because she's just like, if anyone's gonna go, it may as well be me. And this will give like the rat man with the really big gun time to like get a good distance away. And the warforged enough time to catch up and grapple this guy. Definitely didn't accuse a giant orc shaman of compensating for something to his face. And she survived that. With the newfound fear of heights.
Yeah, I want to play a tiefling. I started a campaign during the pandemic, but then it was too many campaigns, and that's the one I had to cut. And I'm excited to go back to playing a tiefling in another campaign at some point. They look really fun.
They are fun.
I haven't been a player in like outside of like I think we had one shot that went for like a couple sessions, but like I haven't really been a player in like a decent campaign in like several years. But the last time I played a human warlock who I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play for very long, so my goal was to become as many monsters as I could. So if there was a werewolf, I would try to get bitten. If there was a vampire, I would try to get bitten. I wasn't sure how I'd become a slime, so I thought I would just get some ooze in a jar and like work that out later. But like I already have a skeleton in me, so I would get to that point, right? It was probably my favorite character, and his name is based off a Chris Straub joke. His name was Nash, off of the little short Monster Nash, who's all monsters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's funny.
I once played a character in a home game. I don't remember really anything about the character, but I remember the instance where every time they would go somewhere, she would look for round rocks, and at camp at night, she would be painting on the rocks, and finally somebody in the group asked why, and she was like, oh, you'll see. And sure enough, they were in like a dungeon somewhere. They came upon a gelatinous cube, and the first thing she did was throw 2 rocks at the gelatinous cube that looked like eyes. So there was little, like, essentially googly eyes in the gelatinous cube.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I love that.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Nice. And now that gelatinous cube fails all its charisma saves.
Or it gained +1.
Googly eyes.
Right? I was
true.
like,
Maybe-
or it could
maybe
go up, so.
Yeah.
or its advantage.
On
If it
the,
has
uh,
eyes now, does it mean it can see you? Okay, so it can be blinded?
On the tiefling note, I ran one in my in our Sunday night game. It was my first character with those guys, and I did it mostly as a joke because they needed a cleric, so I made a tiefling who was a cleric, it was Pathfinder, so I did a war priest of Sarenrae because I thought it was very funny to have a devil man worship the sun god. Like, you know, I thought that was very funny. And then by the end of the campaign, I had experienced so much feeling that he literally wrecked the world. And that was the start of the next campaign. Caused the apocalypse. Oops.
Good job.
That's why you can't have nice things.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, we will pause here and take a quick break. We're a little bit before the hour, but I figure we're at a good stopping point right now. And when we come back, if we haven't gotten to your question just yet, we will get to it as soon as we come back from break. So now is a great time to hashtag free the water elemental, and we will see you in just a few minutes. All right, we are back from our break. Hope you all had a good few minutes to step away from the computer and get drinks and use the restrooms and all that good stuff. We have several questions that we are going to jump back into. If you just joined us while we were on break and this is your first time here, you can drop any questions you have for our group right in the chat, and one of our moderators will make sure that we get it so we can hopefully have time to answer it before we hit the end of the night. So we're going to jump back in with a question from the Space Jamber. Amber, hello. And Amber's question is, what is one indie TTRPG that you're dying to try but haven't found a table for yet?
Oh, there's
all of them.
Oh,
I'm just gonna go check my
So
folder.
many.
I was about to say Urban Shadows, but I have kind of found a table for that because I run games as between season entertainment for the Graveyard Tapes. Because it's an audio drama and a radio play, and I just thought it sounded like fun to do, and somehow I ended up being the only person doing it. I am planning on doing it Urban Shadows, but I have to pull up my list games that I own.
So the big one for me is Lancer. I've been stewing on an idea for a G Gundam themed mecha campaign, and if you know G Gundam, it's a very kind of like giant robot meets WWF kind of a mashup of an anime, and I would love to do a giant mech tournament style campaign. And I think Lancer might be a good system to do it in, so I really want to give that a shot at some point.
I volunteer for that immediately.
Just start it here. Let's go.
Yeah. So mine include Stars Without Number, Slayers, Shotgun Sorcery, Shadowrun, Everland, The Impossible Island, Masks. I collect games like squirrels collect nuts for the winter. It's a problem. So
Nobody
I'm like,
said it
when
was a
am I gonna
problem.
Run this?
I don't think that's a problem.
I don't have time to run it, and I want to make shows with all of them. I need to sleep at some point.
It's kind of a problem.
Sleep's
I guess.
overrated.
Yeah.
You should just become an elf and then you don't have to sleep.
Yeah.
If I could just meditate for 4 hours and be fine, that'd be great. But nope, I need the 8 hours.
I saw someone on Twitter like advertising to do a streaming for an RPG I'd never heard of called Invisible Sun.
Oh, I've never heard of that
Looked
one.
super dark and creepy. It comes in like a black cube, and like I watched the like video of them unboxing it, and I was like, that's intense. And it made me. I don't know if it's. I can't remember who on Twitter was doing it.
That
I wanna watch
sounds
it, and I wanna,
familiar,
like,
but I
try it
can't
out.
remember where I've heard it. Does sound very fun though.
Their logo is purple, and it looks like a dice, and that's all I can pull out of my head right now. But it sounded like an interesting. It was very like Cthulhu and like dark and creepy, which is right up my alley.
Yeah, like galactic apocalypse almost. Local apocalypse. You never know.
Dread. I already said it earlier. Dread. I want Jenga. I wanna see someone die to Jenga.
Now, could you imagine playing it with like that giant, like the life-size Jenga?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Oh,
I-
yes.
Didn't know there was a smaller Jenga. I thought it was just gonna be the street side one.
That one could actually be really fun for a charity stream.
That would be really fun for a
Yeah.
charity stream with the life-size Jenga.
And another game I want to play is Numenera. That's how you say. I can never.
Numenera.
Yes, that one.
Yep.
I've been saying it Numera in my head, and I actually looked at how it was spelled. I was like, crap. I've been saying it wrong.
We I ran that one
Those are the-
to review for my podcast last year, and that was we had a lot of fun with it. It's pretty cool.
That's the same people that do Invisible Sun. Monty Cook or whatever that
Monty Cook
gaming
Games,
company
yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same
I love
people
Monty
that
Cook.
do Invisible Sun. That was like Invisible Sun came after that one, so it's probably like similar themes and stuff.
There's another one. Well, aside from shotguns, I'm sure I think I screenshotted it. I don't know if I still have the picture of it.
I would have been getting a chance to try. I'm not sure. Is it Inspiriles?
Oh, yes.
The-
Yep.
Oh,
The
yeah.
one that
Yep.
leverages sign language as a mechanic.
Yep. I
That
backed that
seems
one
like
on
it'd be
Kickstarter.
a really great experience.
Me too.
It sounds awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
The creator is very nice. I was one of the playtesters of the game, and I actually have him coming back in February when his next Kickstarter launches.
Yeah,
It's just a really, really neat idea for a mechanic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, I was actually just having a conversation with it about it earlier today. That it seems like half the battle with getting people on board with signing consistently is getting in the habit of signing while you talk. Like learning the alphabet and the language is kind of a separate, but getting that comfortable doing that. And if it's a game mechanic that you're using on a consistent basis, it'll become second nature to do that, and that like gets you halfway there.
Right.
And I think that'll be really big for people.
Yeah.
So
So much cool about that game.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
How many other? Because that's pretty like got a pretty good educational slant. So I wonder if there's like other things you can RPGs that are maybe people have already. I'm sure people have already done it that like really teach you things while you go. Just minor probability.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it
Blanking
depends
on-
on what you are hoping to teach with it. Because I mean, I've talked about this in the past on the episodes, but I know TTRPGs as a general rule can be used. They're used in schools sometimes, like for teaching teamwork and, community building and thinking outside the box and, all of those skills. And then also, used sometimes in a more mental health therapeutic method as well. So, I think there's an application for it. It's just finding how to make it work.
Yeah. That other Monty Cook game that I forgot the name of. Stealing Stories for the Devil. On the website it says, it's a fast-paced tabletop role-playing game in which you save existence as we know it by bending reality to carry out the perfect heist.
Huh.
So your lies become reality, but there's someone out there who's telling better lies than you are, and you have to find a way to stop them.
So like real life.
And I'm just like, this feels like it'd just be so fun to mess with. Ooh, that could be so. With Tempest Malta, as I said, the first season was Monster of the Week, but since I was able to tweak reality in that story, I'm planning to have other seasons be set in different systems. So that could actually work with some of them as reality starting to fray a little bit.
Monty Cook also has one called The Strange. I just saw it come up in chat.
Yep.
That's like you can like dive into pocket universes. It's kind of a cool idea. It's something I'd like to try.
I got to try that one in a one-shot with Ballad of the 7 Days. over a
Nice.
year ago, I think, when we tried it. It was quite fun. So it took me a while to get used to how the system worked, but I do like once you get the hang of game mechanics, it's actually really fun.
Agreed.
So technically this isn't one that I haven't played, but it's one that I always would feel remiss if I don't shout it out, and Bee's already yelled it out in chat a little bit ago, but Aether and Steamworks is probably one of my favorite indie games ever. It's just a really fun, the author refers to it as aetherpunk. Everybody always thinks of it as like a steampunk style, so basically like steampunk meets magic, and it's just a lot of fun. The last time I played it, it has a mechanic called chaos, and it's literally exactly what it sounds like. And chaos caused a giant tree with pencils on it to shoot up out of the middle of a space station and shoot massive pencils into the wall, puncturing holes in the space station. So, yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that's intense.
Yeah,
Makes
down.
sense.
yeah, it's a really fun system, and I recommend it to everybody.
It's strange. I feel like I watched that.
You probably did.
I might have, because I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a streamed
That's not
one,
a mental
so
image you'd forget.
I also recently backed a game on Kickstarter called Point Nemo. It's based off of a system a friend of mine co-created called 3-2-1 Action. It's very cinematic focused. I was in some other early playtests and I very much enjoyed it, so that'll definitely be something I'm done at some point whenever I find the time. It's just fun. I enjoy games that are more narrative focused and have those those fun story tools that you can play with.
It's not really an indie game, but I really would love to play Ars Magica. It's just, I bought the book because someone told me that I should read it, and it is really cool, but I don't know where I'm going to find a group to play it with. I keep finding games that I go, and here's another game I will never find a group to play with.
Yep.
It's the eternal curse.
yeah,
Pretty
Yep.
much.
it's true.
Yeah, pretty much.
Find the time.
All right. So we got a question using the Ask My Question next. So we're going to jump to this one and then we'll go back into the queue. But this one comes from the Dimpire, which is my good buddy Jim the Dim. What is your favorite crit, either crit fail or crit success story?
I have.
I don't. Oh, should I go first?
You go.
All right. I was gonna say I don't have one favorite, but we play in both my games. We use brutal critical rules. So if you roll a 20 in combat, or during something combat-y, like if you're trying to hurt someone, then we roll on a separate chart to see if you lose an arm or a hemorrhage or break a rib or something like that. And I have a player in my group that I'm really good at hurting, and I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. Like I've cut his face with a magical carpet. I've had him lose an arm. I've had him lose an eye. Like he's a great sport about it. Like he loves just rolling with it. He likes the dynamics that it changes to his character. But his character over the course of like 2 years went from being this really handsome, fresh-faced paladin who is like ready to take on the world to basically being like a one-handed pirate man with no eye, and it's really just escalated a lot over the years.
Rough.
I think my favorite is the party. We were in this really intense fight that we found out afterwards. We weren't supposed to win that fight, and my paladin got knocked out like 3 or 4 times, and I almost failed all my death saves a couple of those times before they were able to revive me. But the last time I got knocked unconscious, I'd been like hit and like thrown back into the wall, and then it was my turn, and I immediately got a nat 20. Like, she hit the wall and snapped back awake with exactly 1 hit point left.
That's
It
impressive.
was so good. We weren't supposed to survive that. He forgot we had, like, DM forgot we had 2 really powerful healing potions that we just hadn't needed to use. Otherwise, we weren't gonna win, but we did. We have this habit of constantly doing not what he expected, like going the exact right route in a dungeon. Every time.
Kim, someone in
that
chat
is
just
a tip.
said, my favorite crit is the time Kim almost landed on my playtest character, but it got nullified because I had adamantine armor.
Yeah. Very, very much enjoys those instances. It's like, oh, it's a nope. Mm-mm. Never mind.
Just kidding. I can't think of any for me off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Hard one. I
I've
just
been playing-
remember moments, and I don't think any of them were crit fails or successes. Like, we almost died in our last battle in Curse of Strahd, and like half the party was like unconscious. We were out of almost everything, and like the regenerating like character, and we needed to hit it with a certain amount of power, and like somehow the NPC managed, all she had were cantrips to throw a firebolt that was full, like 19 out of 20 points that it could have hit, and then we finally
Whoa.
killed it, and it couldn't regenerate. Like, it was a moment we were all like, oh my god. It was like a 3-hour like combat that like was just the lucky ending, and we were almost dead. It's epic.
One that I can think of, it wasn't technically a crit fail, but it was about as close to a crit fail as you can get. I use a lot of D100s when I DM for like ongoing random events in the world, just things that are happening in the background and things. And every once in a while, I'll let the players roll it without telling them what it's for. Like, just roll a D100 for me, and we'll see what it winds up being. And the player, she rolled a 3, and the roll was for what percent of a trove of information was going to be left intact by the time they found it, because there was a group of imps that were actively just burning files and maps and paperwork and documents, trying to basically just destroy everything before they could get there. So they walk into the room, and they're trying to stamp out the fire and save everything they can get. I'm like, how much is left? And I'm like, about 3% of what was here is still intact. And they all just kind of turn and look, and it's because they realized that was the 3, and that kind of stuff is very fun.
Brutal.
I'm going to have to borrow that. I won't tell my players where I got it from, though.
Hopefully none of your players are in chat.
Probably not.
So if you're one of Brianna's players and you heard this, pretend you didn't.
You're must.
Exactly. I will provide bribery.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't think of any specific moments. I've been playing Pathfinder for so long, where you have to confirm your criticals, and you roll so many dice that enforcing bad things on ones is just like not that much fun, because there are so many dice rolled and a lot of ones come up.
Mm-hmm.
An auto miss is bad enough. Like, but in one of I play occasionally in a huge world run by a history teacher friend of mine, where he gets people from all over the community to come and play various characters in his world,
That's cool.
including the majority of the local community theater people, making a lot of those games really fun. But he does this thing where if you roll a 20 or a 1, you have to roll a pair of special dice that came out of a long forgotten board game, and he's got his own special chart as to what happens, everywhere from basically nothing to an auto death on
Wow.
and it's like there's like a guy and an axe and a sword on them, so it's not even numbers, they're symbols that you have to match up on the chart. So that is always a good time when that happens.
That sounds very entertaining.
Yeah.
And one of my home games, like, it's always been part of my character's backstory that her magic sometimes behaves a little weird. So, this has only happened once, but the monk crit fails an attack and, like, so threw something. It flew by her and she didn't see it, so it startled her. And then, like, I don't remember, then I rolled something else and it was like a 1% or 1% of a chance, like the slightest chance that we would get something on the wild magic table, and we got it.
Wow.
And mind you, we were on an airship like 20,000. We were like, so high up. We were like above a hurricane, and I was just sitting here like, please don't be potted plant. Please don't be potted plant. I just got de-aged by 3 years, but.
I just thought of something from a charity stream that I did several months ago. I was playing a game. It was an entire group of clerics. Kyellen actually did the theme music for it because it was a streamed game. Yes, the Amen.
The Amen. Yes, the Amen.
And I roll. So my cleric was a trickster domain, and so we ended up coming up against a dragon, and I was like, what the heck? Cast polymorph. Dragon failed. DM forgot to use the legendary resistance, so I polymorphed it into a chicken.
Nice.
You forgot to use the legendary resistance?
Yep.
Oh my god. This actually...
Oh, freaking crush combat.
That's like the best feels bad moment.
Right?
when you can like bypass the defenses, it's like you've hacked the system.
Right. Yeah.
I was in a one-shot run by Chris that was off-air just for fun. He's like, how difficult do y'all want to make it? We're like, we want to go for the TPK, buddy. We're ready. Straw basically true polymorphed into an ancient red dragon. I'm like, well, we're dead.
Whoops.
Remember this was when I was first learning like tabletop games. I was a player and we were trying to save this like village that was burning down, and we fucked up pretty bad. We did everything wrong. A lot of people were dying in this elven village and the whole thing was burning down, but there was one character that we thought if we could just save this one person, maybe everything will be okay. And we could not, but the DM saw that we were really trying very hard. So we were our characters were shouting to NPCs to help because that's how badly things had gone. And he said that, all right, one person hears you, and they're gonna go to help. And we asked what do they look like? Like, are they like super buff? Like, we were hoping that like Arnold Schwarzenegger basically heard us and was like ready to like run in and do whatever. And he said, no, he's very frail looking. He's very sad. He's coughing because there's a lot of fire and his entire world is burning down, but he's going to help you. And we're like, okay. And the DM says, I'm just going to roll this. And if it's 20, then he'll do it. He rolled it and it was a 20. And we called that man super civilian because he jumped into a burning tree building, lifted someone out. We were cheering Super Civilian on for the whole night. The rest of the session was just protecting Super Civilian. We never gave him a name. I don't know why. That was probably my biggest, from over 10 years ago, the D20 story that didn't even involve my character.
Amazing.
Oh, great. All right, let's see. So we got a question. Batduck, I'm going to skip your question because we more or less answered it at the same time that we were talking about the indie ones. We were talking about genres and other TTRPGs, so that was right up the line of what he was asking. But we got another question, and I actually think this is a great question. And and I'm going to completely butcher the username, so I'm going to apologize in advance. KJ Deal. I know shows like Critical Role are really popular, but seem very intimidating to beginners like me. Can you recommend a noob-friendly show or podcast?
Stop us from Afar podcast.
Yeah, that one's pretty noob-friendly, because they were not... They hadn't been playing very long when they started it.
I know there's also one called Join the Party, where at least in the early episodes they would add in comments about like, oh, this is why we're doing this, and then they have episodes after session where it's walking through how the rules work. I haven't listened to a lot of it, but I know it exists. D&D specific.
I think it depends too on what kind of content you're looking for, like to jump into.
Yeah.
Didn't someone do out of Strahd, and someone at the table was new, so it was actually good because that person was learning, so some rules explained during the running of the camp. I only watched the first few episodes. I think it was a Canadian group based on their accents. I'm not being very helpful, but I think it was Out of the Mist, ran Curse of the Strahd. Maybe I can Google it while other people are talking.
I haven't watched a lot of streams as much as I've listened to podcasts, I will admit.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to prefer the audio medium myself, as you know, it's a little bit easier for me to listen to. So I can't speak for streams, but for the same reason, Lawful Great Adventures is pretty good because Sydney's new at the table.
Yeah.
And so they spend a fair amount of time explaining the rules and their story starts in a very accessible place. If you don't understand the rules, you can just kind of let it flow by because the story is just so good. You can just listen to it as audiobook entertainment for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by osmosis, you will eventually pick up the basics of the game if that's what interests you.
I agree 100% with that assessment.
Yeah.
The one I was thinking of is...
Oh, you go.
The one I was thinking of is Into the Mist. They did Curse of Strahd. It looks like... I don't even know when that started. A few years ago. They had a new person at the table, so there were some explanations and things. They're all pretty the ones that run for 3 or 4 hours every week can be pretty daunting, though.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
That one's not much shorter.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the tabletop experience and what causes people to be afraid of getting into it is wondering what the commitment is and what type of fun you're gonna have. If you tell someone you're gonna go bowling, they can picture what an evening of bowling is like. But when you tell someone you want to sit down and play a tabletop game, you don't it could be horror, it could be fantasy, it could be steamboats. You might have to know a lot, you might not need to know anything at all. So if you're looking to just see what a regular tabletop RPG session is, you are probably better off looking at a bigger production show where they have to, for monetary reasons, consider their audience a little bit more. But if you want to know what different types of gaming groups are which I think is really, really beneficial because there's no wrong way to play a tabletop game, then you should just pick various things that you see come up in your feed and just give one episode of their show a listen. You might not know what's going on. You might have to figure out along the way who's playing what character. But I think it's very beneficial if you just kind of want to understand what it's like to see people play and what different types of play can look like. Just checking out random podcasts, just checking out random Twitch streams is super beneficial. Otherwise, I would recommend Relics and Rarities. I think was really fun. Something that is maybe not as big as Critical Role, but is still Dimension 20 is also really. I say not as big. They're all very successful money-making franchises, but they're designed to be a little bit kinder and a little bit more rules open, like the Penny Arcade groups as well. Like they're where the rules don't even matter. They're using dice and that's it. Like everything else is a huge question mark.
Yeah, the Acquisitions Incorporated groups. Yep.
Yeah.
And another thing
say-
to remember with that is, as you're going into this, like 99% of the ones you're gonna watch it's not gonna be like watching Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's also true.
He is a special case. The creators can also be great, but it's not gonna be the same level as Critical Role. Just keep
Also
that
say
in
picking-
mind when you're setting expectations.
Also pick one where they start at a low level at the beginning,
Yeah.
because then there aren't
Yeah.
as many things and mechanics, and like monsters aren't as complicated. Like you don't have 500 spells, you have like 6, you know, if you're a heavy
Right.
spellcaster. So like starting
Mhm.
one that starts at level 1 or like level 2, maybe 3, and that way there's learning as you go along with, I mean, that's how I learned my characters too. Like if someone made me play a new subclass and started me at level 8, it would be much more confusing
hard.
than if I started at 1.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
a
part of why
fun
there's
one.
such a huge barrier to entry into Critical Role Campaign 1, because they started at like level 9, which was a really weird choice, but you know, good on them. So I guess if you want to watch Critical Role as a newbie, you should start with Campaign 2, because at least they started at the beginning that time.
Big
Or
agree.
3, so you don't have to be as
Or 3,
you know,
yeah, that's true.
vaguely afraid of just how many episodes there
How
are.
many hours there are?
I go back to my
One
earlier
shot.
comment about the
We're only on
hundreds of
episode
hours of
3.
podcast queue that I
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Ghost
What-
of that easily be Critical Role. Lovely show. It's a lot.
One shots are probably gonna be your best friend. Like if you can find a one shot adventure, like even like the Critical Role people do it, where it's like 1 episode or 2 episodes, like where they don't have a lot of time to set up lore in the world and everything else. Even if they're playing with higher level characters, you know that there's less time that they have to spend on all like the nitty gritty details. So you can more quickly get into the point of the fun for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best one-shots I've ever watched was like Liam O'Brien doing the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" was amazing. It's like an and it's almost holiday season, so that's a good one if you're looking for that one. That was
topical.
hilarious to watch.
I think too it depends on if you want a D&D game or if you're open to listening to other systems as well. You know, because there are some groups that play Pathfinder. There are some that, you know, will do one-shots of all kinds of different systems. And, you know, if you're just looking for, you know, like listening to people playing, you could, you know, I mean, the world is your oyster. There are tons of them out there. You know, I have my list of ones that I recommend to everybody, and, you know, the 3 that I always put on that list are Lawful Great Adventures, From Afar Podcast, and Dice Populi. Those are my 3 favorites. I'm almost caught up on all 3 of them, and, you know, and then I'll dive into my next one. But I think, too, you know, what's nice about, you know, for example, the Lawful Great Adventures one, they took a little bit of a hiatus during some of the COVID stuff because they're actually a group that physically sits at the table. And so they took a bit of a hiatus during some of the height of COVID in their area. And instead, Ben reached out to the community and did a series of one-shots using the quest system, which was a blast. You know, it was a fun look into some of the historical side of it, but using a different system that wasn't quite so rules heavy either. So you could just kind of listen and enjoy the game without having to understand all of the rules.
So if you're interested in Urban Shadows, which is powered by the Apocalypse game, in Shadows of St. Fleur, Landon does a good job of like talking through and explaining different things, like what dice rolls mean, faction stuff. It's also a really good show.
All right,
And,
let's.
if you might be interested in a as it was put earlier, a violently pro-labor space western, then you should definitely tune into Telluride when it launches on Thursday, because we are sad cowboys in a super Americana dystopia.
Amazing.
And,
A little too close to home.
and
It
if
is
you're
sometimes. It's a little cathartic.
if you're interested in learning more about Aspergenesis, listen to Board the Opal Star. 2 of my players have literally never played a TTRPG before.
There you go.
So there's quite a bit of explaining how things work.
And if you ever just want to ask questions, you can come here.
Exactly.
All
If
right.
I don't know the answer, we can figure it out.
Big B's had an Ask My Question next, and I think this is kind of a fun one. Who is someone you know and love their work so much that if they asked you to play a game with them, your answer is yes without getting any kind of details? I know where this came from, but I like the question.
Oh, I mean, there's David Tilstra.
Yep.
I mean, this question is way too easy for me because I literally just did this a few weeks ago, and I rearranged my schedule because Ben reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I said, "Yes, no questions."
Yep.
So that one's an easy question.
I'm open to trying to play with almost any group. Not super picky. But then you have to balance it with your life, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a minor detail.
Your
Yeah,
detail.
Another one, Steven from Faeforge Academy. There's a series of shows where the DM's asked. I would say yes.
I'm pretty sure I
The
actually
Heroes
did that when
Last
Bees
Chapter
invited
3.
me to play a one shot on his stream. He said, "Hey, we're doing a Pokemon one shot. You in?" And I said, "Yup."
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know anyone. So if you've got a game, I'm down.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's easy. I'm not picky.
I feel like the this plays into that meme that came out shortly after Squid Game, where it's like the next game in Squid Game is trying to arrange a D&D game with your entire party.
I would compare that to juggling cats.
Right, nailing Jello to a tree, same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Juggling cats and you can't see half the cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine, I don't have any task trauma from a game just completely falling apart and half the cast having to drop out and having to go back to the beginning. It's a miracle Tempest Multi happened, but I'm so very proud of it.
Scheduling is the real final boss.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was literally just going through that in a group chat where same kind of thing. Somebody added me to a group chat and said, "Hey, we're going to do this thing. Are you in?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then we were like, "Okay, great. When's everybody available?" "Well, I can only play from this window to this window, and I'm not in the same time zone as you guys." And
Dear.
That's when you just create a doodle and be like, "Here, fill this out, please."
you know, given the number
Always
of
the
people involved,
savior.
we came up with a date, like a schedule, like fairly easily. But you know, that'll all change probably at the end of December. So.
For a while, one of my groups was juggling like time zones and California time zones and Eastern Standard Time, and it was impressive that we played as often as we did.
first one shot I ever ran ended up running long, so we had to like schedule to finish the rest of it the following day. It was just magical. Everyone was free at the same time the following day. So I finished running that, and then immediately jumped into Disciples of the Eight. Now I finished Gradient Sit and immediately jump into Disciples of the Eight, because there's nothing like going from robot hell to high fantasy.
There you go. I played like a 3-shot. We did, or maybe it was 4. Last year around Halloween, I played through the Death House of Curse of Strahd, and the people that we were playing with. So there's me, who is in Eastern Time Zone. Half the group that we were playing with, or 2 of the people in the party, the DM and 1 other person, are in the UK. Somebody else, I think, was in my time zone, or maybe 1 time zone back. And then we played with somebody in Hawaii who was 6 hours behind me.
Oh my
So there was
God.
like a 12-hour spread between 2 people and somebody else. And so like 2 of them were like getting ready for bed when it was over. And the other guy's like, okay, I'm off to church now. Bye. You know?
Wow.
That's
That's
pretty
nuts.
intense. I've
Yeah.
never had that wide of a spread. There's probably other people. I'm just drawing a blank.
We had a guy in Ghana who was doing like a year of study for grad school. He like there were nights where he'd be like, "The sun's coming up," and we're like going to bed, going to bed very late.
I just
So.
realized the DM for one of my games is going to be going to Spain for Christmas, so we might be taking a couple months off.
Yeah.
Only 5 hours. It's not too well. It depends on where you are, I guess. Italy for like a month.
It's
and
one
I
of
had to
those-
stay
I-
up late.
It's one of those, I know what part of Spain. I cannot remember right now.
It's the part where they speak Spanish, of course.
Of course. Thank you, Luna.
Hey, you know, I'm here to help.
My list of people used to be longer, but I've since been able to play in one-shots with them. There's a lot of people I'd love to play with again.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I can think of there's probably quite a few people that if they were to say, hey, you want to play a game with me? I would be like, yup. When do we start? All right, let me see if we can squeeze in one more question. Oh, nope, we are not going to have time to fit that question in. Yeah.
Is that going to be a Twitter question?
It might have to be a Twitter question. Yeah, so because I'm looking at the time right now, and the next question that we have is like, involves like, you know, DMing styles, and I'm like, yeah, no, we are not going to have time to get into that one. So what we will do is the questions that we didn't get to tonight, because we actually had several. We had 4 tonight that we didn't have time for. I will post those up on Twitter most likely tomorrow, and so I will tag everybody that's in the stream tonight on them. So, you know, if you feel so inclined, you can answer, the community can answer, you know, whoever wants to get involved is more than welcome to jump in and answer the questions. So I will do that probably tomorrow. And with that said, we are going to need to start wrapping it up because we're coming up on the end of our time. So what I would like to do is I'm going to go around in the reverse order from when we started, and we will have everybody again just remind us of who you are and where we can find you online or on social media, and just remind everybody a little about what you've got going on. So Kyellen, we're going to start with you this time.
All right. I am Kyellen. You can find me on Twitter at Kyellen, Patreon, and Bandcamp, and all sorts of places. You'll find my music under that same name, except here on Twitch, where I'm somebody else. And I make music. I am one of the cast members of the upcoming actual play podcast called Telluride, and I hope to see you all out there. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on, and for anybody who was listening to the music during the course of the stream tonight, that's all Kyellen. So give him a listen. I can't say enough good things about the stuff that he's done. So Thank you for coming on and hanging out tonight.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Next, we will go back to Krista.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got to meet all these people. My name's Krista. I write grim fairy tale themed RPGs based in like a D&D rule set. And I'm slowly building out the universe of the Kingdom of Grimsby. And I have a couple RPGs on sale at Drive-Thru RPG, and you can find me on Twitter at cattailpress. And same with Instagram. And it's tail like fairy tale, not tail like animal tail. I'm gonna spend my life explaining that one. And I think that's it. It was good to be here, though.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And yes, the links are all in chat, so if anybody, if you just want to click on it, and then you don't have to remember how to spell tail, it's right there for you. All right, Kim, we'll go to you.
Yep, so I'm Kim Hanley. You can find me on Twitter at _Kim Hanley, nice and easy, Hanley. That's where most of my presence is, engaging with people about RPG stuff, tweeting about my job, building animatronics for theme parks, and everything else that I got going on. And then the big thing I've got in the works right now is my giant dungeon project that is playtesting. The placeholder itch page is over in the links. You can read up on kind of what's all going to be in there. It's obnoxious at this point. It's like somewhere between 30 and 50 hours of adventuring. And I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, more literally than I'd like, into it. So I'm just really hopeful for that one. I think it's going to be good stuff. So.
Awesome. Definitely. We'll have to check that one out. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm glad our schedules finally lined up, that we were able to work this out. I think Kim and I talked about this ages ago, and then life happens. So this,
it does.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Brianna.
I'm Brianna Jean. You can find me at Brianna Jeans on Twitter. You can find all of my podcast stuff over at Pseudonym Social. Every other Monday, you will either have an episode of Disciples of the Eight, an epic fantasy D&D game about a group of misfit heroes trying to stop a lich from becoming a god. And let's be real, even Tiamat doesn't like this guy. No one wants him to be a god. Aboard the Opal Star is an Espergenesis actual play podcast about an odd group of friends trying to figure out where they fit in a universe full of mysteries that might be closer to home than they realize. And Tempest Multi, my reality-twisting Southern Gothic Monster of the Week campaign. It just started. It's going to be every other Wednesday. You can also find me on Gradient Descent every other Monday. Our next session is going to be on the 15th on the Ballad of the Seven Dice. It's doing a fantastic job with that so far. And I'm also part of the audio drama The Graveyard Tapes, which is fantastic, following the journey, the stories of Finn Valentine, part-time investigator, full-time street magician, will take care of everything that goes bump in the night for $1 or a pint.
Well, there you go.
That's it for now. I also write fantasy, but none of that's available to the public right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. I am impressed that you had time to fit this into your schedule, and it was great to have you. Thank you.
I've been building up my backlog of edited episodes, so that helps. And I have the lovely Nikki from Beholder to No One editing Tempest Multi. That helps a lot, too.
Yes.
She's amazing.
Nikki is fantastic. Adam, we'll head over to you.
Hey, I'm Adam. And if you live near London, Ontario, you can take part in my open world shared campaign Teldrimere over at the Game Chamber. If not, I got a bunch of stuff online always going on. I have a superhuman horror webcomic called Folklore, which you can check out at Folklore Comic. And if you're not into comics and you're more into D&D, that's pretty much everything else that I do. I'm a writer of fantasy and horror. You'll find my adventures popping up all over the place. If you're checking out Splinterverse, which is a great group of people to work with, I recommend looking into their products because I've got something in there. But also the rest of it's really great too, and they're super wonderful people. I handle a little bit of everything. So yeah, if you're just looking to chat with a DM, if you're looking to get a little bit of help with your games, if you need someone to write, I can do that. I've done it before. I'll do it again. No one can stop me.
I was going to say something along those lines, so I'm glad you beat me to it. Well, thanks for coming on and hanging out tonight, Adam. It was great to, like I said, finally be able to put a face with the Twitter handle. So it was awesome to have you on. And I'm definitely going to be checking out your comic. I have the website open already. So, and I am Gamer Mom Luna. This has been Tales from the Tavern. We are here every Sunday night, except for the week after Thanksgiving this year. We won't be here that week, so don't show up because I'm going to be away. And we're here every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time with our epic TTRPG talk show where chat asks all of the questions. Coming up on November 20th, you can catch me, Big Bees, the Space Jamber, and Souls Rolls in a one-shot DM'd by Dungeon Matter. So the newly married Dungeon Matter, congratulations to Matt. And we are going to be playing through his system called Crashlands, which is not available for sale yet, but we keep telling him that it should be. And I am convinced that it is going to be the most mayhemic mayhem that is ever mayhemmed. It's going to be really, really fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. So stay tuned for that. And coming in 2022... will be a podcast version of an extra hour of Tales from the Tavern where the questions will be asked by chat, but that chat will only be Patreon subscribers. So if you are not a Patreon subscriber to Tales from the Tavern, I highly suggest checking that one out. There's also some bonus perks like merch and fun stuff like that you can get if you subscribe at the $5 or $10 level. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out tonight. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to go raid a channel that we have never stopped by before, but I always love, ending the night on a really chill note. So we're going to go hang out with some super cute sleepy kittens, and we're going to go check out the Adorable Kittens channel. So I hope you all have a great evening, and we will catch you all.
Makes me happy.
Yeah. We will catch you all next Sunday night. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.